on Ask a Sonoma County Expert, I'd like to introduce Rody Jonas, the owner of Pure Power Solutions in Hillsburg, California. Rody's been an integral part of the North Bay Construction Corps as a co-founder and also assisting me in my 14 weekly classes that I had my first year and my second year. Rody's also been graciously donated his time and expenses with my Casa Construction Technology class. Without him, we wouldn't have that beautiful home that you see behind me with the solar power on top of it. He spent several days putting that together, and a lot of the materials for that were donated by his company. Anyway, welcome, Rody. Looking forward to talking to you today.
Nice to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your life story, the road you took to get to where you're at right now today.
Yeah, happy to. And thanks, Terry, and welcome aboard, everybody that's watching this from the Construction Corps. We all care a very lot about what you're doing and what you're going to do with yourselves. So thanks for being here. Yeah, the question about my life story a little bit. We are located in Hillsburg now, and that's where the life story started. I was born and raised in Hillsburg, and went to school in Hillsburg, K through 12, and lived in town and in the country. And so probably the country part fed into more or less how I initially started in solar power. After high school, I went off to several different colleges, continued my education, and became more interested in alternative forms of energy than the standard ones we've been always using, big giant power plants somewhere. So I graduated ultimately from Santa Barbara, UC Santa Barbara, with a physics degree, and was working for a kind of high-tech company in Santa Barbara, but knew my heart and my future lie elsewhere, and lay elsewhere. So I'd taken some wind and other alternative energy electives while I was in college, because again, I was interested. And after I graduated, I found an intensive training course through a solar manufacturer in Camarillo, about an hour south of Santa Barbara. I took 2 weeks off of work, and I went and got trained, and then quit my job and moved up to Mendocino County. I wouldn't say on a whim, but just with a plan to do solar power and live off grid, because that's what I wanted to do. I thought back then in 1994, off-grid solar power was the only real solar power out there. Today we're used to seeing solar panels in cul-de-sacs and on buildings in town, but that didn't happen then. There was zero of that. It was all off-grid, meaning there's no utility electrical service where you live, so you're either going to use candles, burn diesel, or have solar power. And I wanted to go live way out there and not be beholden to diesel and not be beholden to candles unless it was that kind of an evening. And so solar power was a cool thing to do. And even to this day, almost 27 years later, so a few months from now, it'll be 27 years since I started doing solar. And I think it's even cooler today than I thought it was then, not just because we're doing it and Pure Power is pretty good at it, but this concept of taking basically thin air and sunshine and turning it into electricity, which is this universal fuel that does all the things that we all think are fun. It charges your devices, keeps the fridge cold, lights on, music. Now it moves cars around and trucks are coming. And there's no other energy source that can do all of those things. It's the ultimate energy source. And here we are gathering it out of thin air and sunshine. So after a couple of years in Mendocino County doing solar off-grid, it was clear there was going to be grid-tied solar. I moved back to Sonoma County, ended up in the Hillsburg area. Still live off-grid in the mountains, northeast of Hillsburg. And we're 5 miles from utility power. And fortunate to have most of the conveniences of in-town living. At the same time, 80% of Pure Power's work is is on the grid in town. And nowadays, I think a lot of people are familiar that batteries in town and on the grid are a big part of the equation. So our business continues to grow and thrive. And we have a lot of great people on our team. Many of them have been here for a long time, learned a lot along the way, myself and them, and we continue to learn and prosper.
Rody, how many employees do you have? Right.
Terry, we're at 18. As of Monday, we got another new person coming on. And I have a couple of interviews tomorrow and Monday. We're still hiring. We have probably 4 or 5 open positions right now.
You know, Rody, I was going to ask you this question later on, but let's touch on it now. So, when you're interviewing, what type of people do you look for? Where does somebody get the skills or knowledge in solar power before they get to you?
Yeah, it's a great and important question, Terry. And part of the answer to that question, I think, is part of it is universal to just about any job. And this sounds like, old fart talking about school and reading, writing, and arithmetic. But in truth, to be successful in this business, to start strong and go up from there, just like most businesses, being able to read and write and communicate. And here, having some math skills really, really helps. Doesn't necessarily mean college whatsoever, but it does mean having the basis and having a decent background and able to do those things. If you can't communicate well, you're not a strong member of the team. So great communication skills, being well spoken, knowing how to use some of the basic technologies. That doesn't mean texting. It's not part of a working professional's day that much. It's emails and other forms of communication. Direct communication are really important. But to get specifically into solar, so that's kind of the common basis, is to be able to communicate, be able to do some math that you learn in school, and write a decent email, convey information, follow instructions. Those things, there's no getting started, getting going, and being successful without them. Thank you.
Touch on what the day in the life of an owner's like. Maybe look at some of your projects.
Yeah, we can look at projects.
Okay, Rody, where's this project at, and what's the project about, Rody?
This project is out west of Healdsburg, in between Healdsburg and Girdville, on a road called Sweetwater Springs.
Huh.
And this is a great first slide for projects because once again, back to where this journey started, where it is and where it's going, I continue to think that off-grid power systems are pretty damn cool. They are a smaller part of the work we do on a daily basis now, but this particular project runs a ranch, a pretty good-sized ranch out Sweetwater Springs, and then turn off maybe a mile and a half off the road. And if they didn't have this power system there, they'd of course be running a diesel generator 24 hours a day. Wow. And turns out in a year, there's 8,760 hours in a year. And that'd be a lot of diesel and a lot of environmental mess, a lot of pollution in the air, and a lot of money lost. Instead, this power system here provides about 90% of their annual power. Wow. It's off-grid, so in the wintertime, when the days are shorter, the nights are longer, and it rains, there's a backup generator that comes on automatically when the batteries are low, runs the poles, charges the batteries up, and then turns off, all hands-free. The power shed closest to us has the waterworks in it, water pumping. The shed behind that is where the power system is. So all the inverters that convert the battery power into usable site power live in that second sea container. And we built this one. This is really one of my favorites. So cool. We built that whole sea container out on site at our warehouse, and actually had those solar panels that are on top of it already attached to it, laying flat. We trucked it to the site, big truck.
Wow.
Set it down with a forklift, big forklift, and the wires were waiting in the ground. It was, I'm going to say plug and play. It might have taken an hour and a half when we initially arrived. The generator was already set. We connected that container, tilted those panels up because they were flat. They were made to tilt, tilted them up, plugged it in, and turned it on. The main primary initial power consumption is about 2,200 feet away down the mountain. I happened to be on this job yesterday. I haven't been there in a long time because it hasn't had any issues. It just works. And I ended up out there yesterday because the owner was coming. They don't live in the area. The property manager was not getting the screen on the report system status, and actually feeds online information about the system to us, wasn't working, and he thought the system was crashed. And I went out there, and all it needed was a classic reboot, literally power cycling the controller. So system continues to operate, and we're, I don't know, 3 or 4 years into it, whatever it was. So
Can we look at another
we
one?
get to work. I'll say, you see here, you'll see these other pictures. I mean, in construction, often in our area, you get to work in some stunning locations, right? You're not in a cubicle somewhere, that's for sure.
That's great. How about another one?
Let's do it.
What's this one now? I see the workers up here. Look how small they look compared to the building. Wow.
Well, maybe the building's not that big. Maybe they're just tiny workers.
Yeah, okay.
This happens to be the largest job that we've self-performed 100%. And well, that's fine. We certainly don't count success in size of a job. We count in success, in major success in just how well we do. Whether it's 10 panels, which we do, you know, or in this case, about 2,500 solar panels. And this is Silver Oak Winery, new construction at the time. Obviously, you can tell it's pretty new. The amount of solar that we put on this building, and then we put a giant canopy, solar canopy over some water tanks with another 600 modules on it. They provide about 95% of the annual energy that this entire site uses. And we have I'll call it world-class energy storage system that provides backup power, you know, batteries and battery-based inverters to this site in the event of a utility outage. It's 2020. They happen, right? We all know that. So this has a really cutting-edge, high-tech energy storage system incorporated with this project. We designed the entire project in-house. I designed the entire battery system myself, and the system continues to perform really well.
What is this, Rody?
What is that, Terry?
That looks like a bunch of control panels that I would never know how to operate.
That's why we hide the buttons and levers from you.
Yeah. Good.
So what I love about this, you know, I mean, I like solar panels. They're you know, cool looking, and once again, they just put them out in the sunlight and they make electricity for, you know, 40 years, right? No moving parts. But the electricity that comes out of solar panels is what's called DC, or direct current. You think of that as battery or solar flavored electricity, and it's not grid flavored electricity. It's not alternating current like what runs your fridge and comes out of the outlet in your house. So something has to take in grid tied and off grid installations, has to take the battery and solar power if there's no batteries, battery and solar if there are, and turn it into usable electricity for our appliances and lights and things. So these two inverters are, the silver boxes are inverters, and they take DC electricity. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's a 48 volt DC based system, and they convert it into what's called 120, 240 or house flavored electricity. Wow. And the 3 black boxes in between the 2 silver inverters are solar controllers. They take the solar power and control it. And I don't know if we know what a torque converter is. Think of it as a smart gear box for solar power. They manage the solar array to extract the optimum amount of power maximum efficiency out of the solar array through something called maximum power point tracking, MPPT for short. And then the solar goes through those controllers and goes into the batteries. The controllers both optimize the solar output and properly charge and protect the batteries from an overcharge. Get them full as fast as you can and don't overcharge them. That's what the charge controllers are. What I like about this, you kind of can't tell, there's a feature here that might not be clear in this picture. That's in a building in an off-grid place out by St. Helena, and it's a kind of a tower. This place is kind of a castle. It kind of looks like they might have robbed a couple churches and some of their stuff in Europe and drove it over here. It's pretty fancy. So the tower is like a 5-sided tower. And so those aren't right angles. That's at whatever, you know, we get 360 by 5, 70 something degrees. Remember I said about math, tried to do a little on the fly there. So those gutters, the gray thing on the bottom are called gutters. They don't come like that where they would do what's called mitering. You guys may end up doing that in your classes or seeing it online. That seam, thank you, Terry, is where we cut very nice and clean and mitered those gutters together.
Wow.
That controller in the middle straddles the two mitered gutters. We thought this ended up being a pretty cool finish.
Ah. Where's it?
Yeah, right? So if you happen to be driving up or down the 101, right at Bicentennial, on the east side of the freeway, is Summit State Bank.
Got it.
And, you know, people park their cars out in the sun, they get hot, and shade's nice. It's even nicer than shade, is shade that makes power, right? So we put these canopies up for the bank, and a lot of design. We can sit here and burn up all of our time, the next person's time, and on into the sunset about what went into designing this system, analyzing it, giving a good pro forma, which is the economic analysis, ensuring that that it fit the site appropriately, all aspects of it. It did go off like clockwork, including the fact that it's hard to notice. You can't tell with those two arrays, one facing south and one facing west. They're about 8 feet apart by planning it, and for reasons. The right edges line up along that southern edge. Nope, to your right, Terry. That edge and the other one, if you're standing out in the parking lot, they line up. The heights of the two arrays at the height point, you go over to where they come together in the back there, Terry. Those two, where the two arrays come together like this in the back, closest to the bank, in the corner. In the corner.
Here?
Another corner, towards the front, right there.
Wow.
Hard to tell right there. They're within about an inch of height.
Holy
You
cow.
like things that are right and tight, that nothing should happen by accident. And when you're done, a lot of times you walk around and professionals have been working in the world around you, you don't even get a chance to notice the things that are done well. It doesn't catch your eye because they look right, they fit. And you want to be conscientious and aware of these things. Because otherwise it's just haphazard. I mean, maybe for some reason something can't line up, and then you still have to build something. But everything that can be done should be done to provide for the best and highest quality workmanship.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, this is great. Wow.
Work in progress. And it's not, you know, what I love about this is I think we recognize that bridge in the background. So it's not that often, and it's the only time that I'm aware of, that at Pure Power we were wearing life vests on the job site.
That's I didn't realize. Yeah, look at
Because
that.
if Eric, right there, he's our head of construction right now. If he were to fall to his left by about 2 feet, he'd bounce one time off a sharp rock and he'd be in the water. So safety first, right?
Yeah.
He's actually wearing a harness. He's actually roped. So he actually would stop before he bounced off that rock. But nobody fell. But you can see here, safety's first. So this is a job we did for the Coast Guard. If you ever go under the Golden Gate Bridge, you'll see it's still there. And it runs telemetry, meaning a data station for the U.S. Coast Guard, think Homeland Security. And we craned these materials into place because there's a tiny little walkway that you go across to get over here. That concrete came preformed as part of our design. And so the site work and site disturbance was minimal. This spot, you gotta check it out sometime. Line Point, been around since like the 1800s, you know, people used to man it, right? Shooting boats that came in or something. But this is a fully off-grid system because it's really critical path. They don't have any other power source there. We provide all the power for this little building that provides, again, U.S. Coast Guard data about what's going on in the San Francisco Bay.
Pretty cool stuff, Rody.
That was cool.
So, what do you see for the future of outlook for solar power, Rody?
Well, I kind of mentioned this earlier. It's been a great profession to be in. Always learning more to learn. It's evolving and changing and improving. And I think that now with the advent of, in particular, batteries coming to the grid, and the challenges we've seen with the grid, with power shutdowns and hurricanes and fires and everything else that seem to happen, I think the future is continuing to accelerate. And I think that's a good thing for those of us in this profession and in this business, and the people that want to get into it. What I like to tell people, if they're considering professions that have, you know, long-term good prospects, and again, I mentioned this before, electricity is not going out of style. Yeah, it's only getting more and more demand. We run more things, we charge devices, we drive cars, we are heating more places with electricity through heat pumps instead of burning natural gas or propane. The demand for electricity is going to continue to go up. It's going to be a great field to be in. Being an electrician is a great thing. Electricity in the house, lights and outlets isn't going out of style. But making the electricity that goes into the house or into the building or into the car, that's has a great future.
Hey, Rody, last question. Most of the audience watching this are going to be between 15 and 18 years old. So if you could jump in a time machine and go back in time, what advice would you give yourself when you were 16 years old?
First of all, 16-year-old me wouldn't have listened, but
Yeah.
not 18-year-old me either. I mean, I think the advice that makes sense and would have maybe made sense to me rather than just talking to myself back then and me not listening. So it's acquire skills and knowledge. They're the most powerful tool you'll ever have. You can buy a tool on a whim, but it takes time to acquire skills and knowledge. Once again, people that are on, they're professional athletes, they go to the gym and they train. And what you do in school, while you're in it in high school, it seems like you're writing English papers about, mummies or something for no good reason. It's like training. It's teaching you how to communicate. Learn how to communicate. If you can't communicate well, how are you going to communicate to achieve your goals? Continue to add to your knowledge base. And when you're feeling like things aren't working out, make sure you check what you've been doing. Are you achieving and performing in a way that you know you can be proud of? Or do you need to fix something first? And if you are performing that way, or you fix it, then expect other people to treat you accordingly. So the advice I'd give myself back then, which I did, even listening or not, was continue to learn. It's fun to learn. I mean, it sounds goofy, right? When you're in school, people are making you learn. And ultimately, it's what keeps things interesting, and it doesn't hurt, it doesn't suck to make more money. You don't make more money knowing less. You make more money knowing more. And you get to do more cool things knowing more. I mean, think about that. I'm talking to my old self. keep learning. I could have done a lot of things faster.